Welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. We discuss 6 questions in 9 minutes because leaders know how to be concise. We'll go ahead and jump right into it for today. Our first question, in a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
I'm Keith Weiner. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Monetary Metals. We had this crazy idea of the gold standard, and the working gold standard is when anybody who wants to can deposit their gold and earn interest on their gold. And so that's what Monetary Metals does, is we pay interest on gold.
Fantastic. I like that concept. Well, question number 2, what's the best thing about working with the team?
You know, if you have an ambition that's greater than what you can do with your own hands and your own 24 hours in the day and 7 days in the week, then you're either going to build a team and work with a team, or you're going to be really frustrated. I can only imagine, back in the Middle Ages when you couldn't really do that. And so you're just in a one-man workshop, dreaming, but you can never really do anything. And, for me, it's about being able to try to function at the scope of my, vision and my ambition and where I'm trying to go. And so you build a group of like-minded people that really want to go there with you. And it's enormously satisfying.
It's a great concept about avoiding the frustration of doing it yourself by including a team. Great concept. Question number 3. I hear from other leaders of teams that it can be a challenge to get team members engaged. Tell us your thoughts on that.
I sort of have one of those on the one hand and on the other hand. On the one hand, if you are really trying to force something to fit that isn't really a fit, you need the right people on the bus. I think it's kind of the old analogy. And people's motivation have to come intrinsically from within. And for people who don't, or they're not motivated about your particular thing, so I'm a big believer in sort of personality screening, personality assessment kind of stuff. Every job, there's a person who says, my God, that would be so incredibly tedious, or that would be terrifying. But there's another person who says, that's a great challenge, that's a great opportunity for me. And so on the one hand, you got to find the right people. On the other hand, you have to give them a vision. We're doing something that's really big and ambitious and everything else. But I've even read interviews with a guy who founded one of those janitorial service companies where they come in and, replace the urinal pucks in, commercial buildings and clean the bathrooms. And he said, you might think it would be impossible to, paint this as a vision and get people energized, but for the people they hire, they really do. And I think the moral of the story is, for every job, there is a right person who gets excited about it. And there are companies that can, portray it as more than just, we mop the floor in the bathroom. That's what we do.
That's a great concept. Great insight. Thank you for sharing that. Question number 4, what other piece of advice would you like to offer to leaders of teams?
What do I say to leaders of teams? A lot of it, this is kind of like Sun Tzu, The Art of War. This is basically, there's 2 things you have to do to always win, which is number 1, know your enemy. Number 2, know yourself. And of course, there's, a small saga on each of those 2 things. I think a great deal of it, know yourself. What are you trying to do? Why are you trying to do it? Is this about, I was in Toastmasters many years ago, and it seemed like there was a whole slew of people that were talking about starting your own business. And each one of them always seemed to have that obligatory, well, you don't like your boss, you're sick and tired of getting up early to work in the morning, you want to get rich quick, like all these sort of pseudo reasons. And so when it was my turn to do my next project, my project was called, or my talk was called, So You Want to Start Your Own Company, huh? And I said, far be it from me to dissuade anybody from doing this, but be sure what your reasons are, make sure they're the right reasons. If you just don't like your boss, probably what you should do is find a different job with a better boss. If you have a vision of how the world could be and should be, that's different, you're making some positive improvement in the world, and you have a positive sum view, and you don't regard everything as zero sum. I take you, you give, but you really look at it, so we're building something bigger, and there's something for everybody in the team. And if you address all of the skills you're going to need, right? So there's some things the CEO cannot delegate. But most things you have to delegate. You can delegate and you have to. You can't scale a company if you try to do everything yourself. But there's 3 things you cannot delegate. And I've read this many years ago, and this really was kind of the guiding thing for me. Number 1, setting the vision and the mission. You can't hire somebody to do that. Number two, building the culture in the team. And so that means, you're going to have a vision, number one. If you don't have a vision, don't start a company. Number two, you're going to have some charisma. And everybody has a different kind of charisma. Not every CEO is necessarily a born Hollywood natural or is going to stand up at open mic night and do 5 minutes of stand-up comedy and get the audience, roaring with laughter. But you've got to get people on board what it is you're trying to do. And then number three, you have to be the ambassador to the outside world. You have to do interviews. You have to talk at conferences. You have to give, video speeches and all these things. And you have to communicate to everybody else out there, here's what we are doing. And if you think in those terms, say we're enlarging the pie, we're doing something important, we're doing something that matters, we're making money by doing good. So it's not either or, it's not about making money and the heck with doing good. It's not about doing good in a nonprofit sense. I mean, if somebody wants to do that, good on them, I suppose. But if you can sort of integrate all that, then, build a company, build a team, and, go for it.
Those are such great comments, great insights. Really appreciate those. Question number 5. What other successful team leaders, such as yourself, would you like to recognize that have had a positive influence in your life?
Obviously, I guess there's the classic. You think about Peter Drucker. I don't know that he was a team leader, but he really talks about a lot of the ideas. Warren Buffett, although post-2008, I think there's some tarnish on him, in my opinion, because it was all for bailouts of companies such as his. Bill Gates, which everybody loves to hate, and I think his arch nemesis, Steve Jobs, because both of them started with a very different world and said, this is, come with me, this is how, things could be. My brother-in-law, who just recently retired as a pilot in the Marines, said, the Marines define leadership as follow me. So it's not, I'm going to sit over here and say, you go over there and do that. I'm the first one leading the charge over the hill. I think, in the more modern world, right, so Monetary Metals' particular thing is we would look at eBay. Meg, what was her name? Whitman, I want to say. Now I'm drawing a blank as to what the founder and first CEO of eBay was. Because it's a model of disintermediating. It's saying, okay, all these people want to sell this stuff, all these people want to buy this stuff, and right now it's an inefficient market. Or Travis Kalanick of Uber, much more recently, even though I think he's got personally some ish, really had this vision that the taxi experience was truly a terrible experience. And he said, here's this better way that we could do this. And then very rapidly, made some pivots. I saw his original pitch deck. It was not at all the Uber that you see today. It was almost embarrassingly bad. But he pivoted through it and he came out with something, obviously, that changed the world. I mean, you can't imagine being in a city today that you don't live in not having Uber. I couldn't.
Those are certainly some well-known people, so thank you for recognizing them. Well, 6th and final question. Tell us about your first job.
So I'm going to take my sort of first real job, not the stacking boxes in a sweaty warehouse when I was in high school.
Fair enough.
I was your classic computer nerd. My first business was a software business, but before that, I was in computer science school, kind of getting really burnt out by it and bored, and kind of wondering what I'm going to do. And I saw this ad, and it was for a company that said, the ad said, instead of taking finals, would you rather be playing video games, or better yet, being paid to write them? Call this number, ask to talk to Mike. And so I did that, and that led to my first job programming video games. And it's not as glamorous as you think looking on the outside. I think most things that seem glamorous are really just a lot of hard blood, sweat, and tears. But for me, it was a really great first job, and I learned a ton and had a lot of fun and built, my base from there.
That's part of the value of that very first job is having some fun with it, but also learning some great things. So that's awesome. Keith, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. How can people find you?
So our website is monetary-metals, that's a plural, monetary-metals.com. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm K Weiner. That's Weiner, K Weiner01. On Facebook, I'm Weiner.Keith or Keith.Weiner5, I think. On our website, if you want to contact me, there's a form that you can click, contact us, that will get to me. And look forward to it.
Very good. Well, thanks again. This is Sean Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. For more ideas, you can find us on LinkedIn by searching Blue Sky Business Consulting. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.